Okay, so let's focus on the IELTS lesson, guys, that we would be doing. And we would be focusing on some questions of multiple choice questions and true, false, and not given, which are an integral part of IELTS reading. And that is what we would be doing today. So basically, guys, as you all know, in IELTS reading, there are three comprehensions, especially in the academic test that have been given to us. And in these three passages, we are expected to solve a total of 40 questions during the examinations. So basically, if we calculate the time frame, 40 questions in 60 minutes. So the average time frame that we get for each passage in IELTS would be 20 minutes. But remember one thing, guys, in IELTS, there is no hard and fast rule that I always have to start from the first question, which many students have a misconception about. They think that I have to go from 1 to 40. There's no hard and fast rule about that. You can start with any question that you are comfortable and compatible with, and then you only have to keep in mind that at the end of those 60 minutes, you are expected to complete all those 40 questions that would be allotted to you during the reading test. And in reading, there's no extra time, guys, that is given to us, like in IELTS listening, where we get those 10 minutes extra to transfer the answers and so on. In IELTS reading, there is no extra time that is being given to us. So we have to make sure that we get all the tasks completed within that 1 hour by transferring our answers to an answer sheet that would be allotted to us. We can make markings in our paper, we can highlight the words. This privilege is given to us. But at the end of 60 minutes, you have to make sure that all the answers are transferred to the answer sheet. So right now, I'll be working out on few questions, guys, that I'll be doing with you. Some multiple choice questions along with true, false, and not given questions that I'll be doing. So let's get started now, guys. First and foremost, the multiple choice question that we would be doing right now. So what exactly happens in MCQs, guys? In IELTS, when you're given the multiple choice questions, a small paragraph would be presented in the passage, of course, along with the question. And if multiple choice questions are given to you in twos, threes, or fours, you have to remember that they would go one after the other, which is known as the series rule, guys. So if the first MCQ is taken from the second paragraph, the third would be below that, the fourth would be below that, and so on. So it follows the series rule. So whenever you are being given a MCQ, the first thing that you have to do is just read the question very well and try to understand, guys, what exactly the question is expecting from you. For instance, over here, the question says, what did the 2006 discovery of the animal bone reveal about lynx? So a direct word that has been given to you, that is 2006. So during the examination, you would be looking out for that word where exactly it is located in the comprehension. And once you find that paragraph, which would be in the same way like you see on screen right now, you people would be expected to read that paragraph as a story, guys. Now, what is the biggest mistake that we commit? We go for spontaneous reading because that is the practice that we have been following since childhood. We read and then we forget what we have read. We tend to read it multiple times, and that is what causes a problem, guys. So the thing that you would have to keep in mind, don't engage into multiple readings because there would be a time constraint. That is the reason, read it only once. But when you're reading something, try to build a picture, guys, a story of whatever that you read. Imagination is the key. When we imagine something, guys, the job is made relatively very easy because that thought, that picture is more clearer than words. So once we are done reading the question, we have to read the paragraph as a story, as I've told you, by looking out for that specific word. And once we are done with that, then we have to just come back to the options and always apply the process of elimination, guys. This is a very integral thing that you have to keep in mind. Never ever try looking out for the right answer. Everything looks correct. Instead, apply the process of elimination. Something that has not been cited has to be eradicated, and it would really help you to get close to the closest option, and that is what would get you your desired scores. So let's read the question now. What did the 2006 discovery of the animal bone reveal about lynx? Now, without looking at the option, 2006, one thing given over here, like nothing seemed to fit until 2006 when an animal bone dating from around the same period was found in northern England. So this is an extra information. Even if you don't focus on that, that's fine. Now they are talking about the word discovery in this line, which means my real job starts from here. So, what has been given? Until this discovery, the lynx, a large spotted cat with tassel led ears, was presumed to have died out in Britain at least 6,000 years ago. So, look at this word presumed, which means there is no confirmation. It's just an estimation that it had died 6,000 years ago before the inhabitants of these islands took to farming. But the 2006 find, together with three others in Yorkshire and Scotland, is a compelling, a strong evidence that lynx and the mysterious living were in fact one and the same animal. So there was evidence in 2006, no presumption that it was the same animal. If this is so, it would bring forward the tassel-eared cat's estimation of extinction date by roughly 5,000 years. So initially, it was presumed that it died 6,000 years ago. But if this evidence is true, the estimation date would come back to 5,000 years, not 6,000. Now, when we come back to the options, the first option says its physical appearance was very distinctive. Now, they have only said tassel eared cats, but have they mentioned anywhere that it was distinctive? It was too different? Is there a comparison been made with any other animal? No. So that gets eliminated. Its extinction was linked to the spread of farming. So the word farming is given over here. But what was presumed? That they had died 6,000 years ago. After that, farming had taken place. So extinction was not linked to farming anywhere because farming took place later on. So that gets eradicated. It vanished from Britain several thousand years ago. There is no conclusion because it was only presumed that it had died almost 6,000 years ago. So we cannot conclude it based on this word. And finally, it survived in Britain longer than was previously thought. Because initially we thought that it died 6,000 years ago. But when we rely on the evidence, that would bring down the extinction date to 5,000 years. And that is why option number D turns out to be the correct answer, that it survived in Britain longer than was previously thought. So this would be taken as the final answer, guys. So this is how we need to look out for the content. Whenever they say presumed and all the stuff, estimated, we need to be very cautious because estimation and confirmation are not the same thing. So we need to be very cautious when we look at these kind of words, guys. Now let's just move ahead to the second one that we would be doing. Few more questions that would only make your skill set go stronger. Now, here it says, what point does the writer make about large predators in the third paragraph? So, the keyword that is clearly given to us over here is large predators. So, that is what we need to look out for. So, let's start reading it. So first two lines, if you see rewilding, which means the mass restoration, it involves letting trees to return to places that have been denuded, dredging, permitting. This information is not essential because it doesn't match the requirement of the question. Now here, if you look forward, one of the most striking findings of the modern technology, this is where the predator is the option that is being given to us. So what is mentioned about predators? That one of the most striking findings of modern ecology is that ecosystems without large predators behave in a completely different ways from those who retain them. So there is a difference in the ecology from the ones who do not have them and the ones who retain, that is, keep them. Some of them drive dynamic processes that resonate through the whole food chain, creating niches for hundreds of species, which means creating a platform for hundreds of species that might otherwise struggle to survive. Then the last line, the killers turn out to be the bringers of life, which means they are appreciating the role of predators over here, guys, because they are the ones that create a platform for hundreds of species. The ecology would not have been the same without them. So they are just appraising or talking positively about the predators. So option number A, their presence can increase biodiversity. Yes, two things, like it creates niches for hundreds of species and they turn out to be the bringers of life. So this turns out to be the closest. They may cause damage to local ecosystems. No negative stuff is being given over there that they are causing any damage or creating any trouble. So that gets eliminated. Their behavior can alter according to the environment. Nothing is being given about the behavior that changes, guys. Alteration, modification, amendment. There is no such word that is being used, even that matches with the environment. They should be reintroduced to areas where they were native. That is not being given either. So remember the process of elimination, guys. Native, behavior alter according to the environment, then cause damage. So something that has not been given, you can strike that straight away, and that is how your job would be made easier. So elimination, as I've told you, plays a very vital and significant role. Now let's move to the next question, couple of them that we would be doing. What does the writer suggest about British conservation in the fourth paragraph? So now the subject that is being given to us over here, conservation. So let's try to read and find out what is being given about the conservation. Now, such findings present a big challenge to British conservation, which has often selected arbitrary assemblages of plants and animals, random assemblages, collections of plants and animals at great effort and expense to prevent them from changing. So, what exactly are they trying to preserve them to prevent them from changing? It has tried to preserve the living world as if it were a jar of pickles, letting nothing in and nothing out, which means they took the relative samples and locked them. No other species can come in, no other species can go out. And if you read further, keeping nature in the state of arrested development. So the tone itself sounds negative because it's arrested. You're not giving it a scope to increase. But ecosystems are not merely collections of species, they are also dynamic and ever changing or ever shifting relationships between them. And this dynamism often depends on large predators. So here they have clearly systems that ecosystem, they only thrive, they prosper when there is a change, when there is a relationship. You cannot keep things confined just to preserve them. So one, when we look at option number A, it has failed to achieve its aims. Nothing about failure and aims that is being given, guys. So option number A gets eradicated. It is beginning to change direction. There's no positive tone that now they are changing direction or leading to some positivity that has not been given. It has taken a misguided approach. This is the closest because their approach is keeping everything locked, collected, stored, arrested, not letting the scope to increase. And that can be considered as a misguided, a negative approach. It has focused on the most widespread species. They haven't said anywhere that the focus is only on the widespread species, and that's the reason the correct answer for this turns out to be option number C, that there has been a misguided approach that has been seen. Let's try to do one more MCQs, guys. Now, protecting large areas of the sea from commercial fishing would result in. So, obviously, it's a good thing that they are planning to protect the large areas of sea from commercial fishing. And what would it lead to? Now, here, if we read it this time together, at sea, the potential is even greater. But protecting large areas from commercial fishing, okay, we could once more see what the 18th century literature describes. Once more see, which means we are able to see things once again. What we would be able to see: vast shoals of fish being chased by fin and sperm whales within sight of the English shore. This policy would also greatly boost catches in the surrounding areas. Boost, increase the catch. The fishing industry's insistence on scoring every inch of seabed, leaving no breeding reserves, could not be more damaging to its own interests. So, when they tried to score, that is, pull out every inch of the seabed, leaving no reserves, that could be more damaging to them. So, what would happen if we protect them, guys? A, of course, practical benefits for the fishing industry because it could increase the catch. We would be able to see fishes that were long seen. Some short term losses for the fishing industry, short term losses that is not being given. This word is missing over here, so we can eradicate that. Widespread opposition from the fishing industry. There is no opposition that is being given to us, guys, from the fishing industry. This word itself is not being cited. And certain changes to techniques within the fishing industry. They are not telling anything about the change of techniques. So remember this thing, guys. This is on a trickier side. Things can even be easier than this during the examination. But now there's one critical thing that you have learned: words that are not being given, they are to be eradicated. And that can only be made stronger when we develop our image building skill. So this is how the multiple choice questions are to be followed, guys. And the same logic applies even to the questions where there are Roman alphabets given, which we would be doing in the coming lessons. So whenever they give us Roman alphabets like 1, 2, 3, and so on, the same strategy applies. We first read that particular paragraph, then we have to come back to the options, and instead of finding the right answer, we would apply the process of elimination. So any theory based question that is being given to you guys, this is the strategy that you would be implementing. Now we'll be moving ahead to the next set of question, guys, which is known as true, false, and not given. Now, sometimes, remember, guys, they call it as true, false, and not given. Sometimes they call it as yes, no, not given. The meaning remains the same, but during the exam, if they have asked you true, false, and not given, you need to write it as true, false only. If they ask you yes, no, not given, you have to write yes, no, not given. So you cannot write true and say, sir, the meaning is the same. Yes and true means the same. That we would understand, but the computer, where the scores are checked by the system, that won't be able to understand the feelings that you had towards the question and your thought process. So it won't give you that desired grade, guys. So be very cautious. And once again, don't go for short forms, which we usually write to save our time, Y, N, NG, TF, NG. Take that much of effort to complete the statement, guys, to write it as true, false, or not given. That's the thing that you would have to keep in your mind. Now, these questions that we would be doing of true, false, and not given, remember, similar to multiple choice questions, guys, even these questions are always presented in an order. For instance, if you find the first question over here, the second would be below that, the third would be below that, and the fourth would be below that. It follows the hierarchy, the synchronized order of the questions. It is never disturbed, and that is what you would be learning today. So the same thing has to be done over here, guys. First, we'll be reading the respective question. Once we are done reading the question, we need to see where that particular word has been given, and then we have to read that particular portion and locate the answer. Now, the standard time frame, guys, while you solve the comprehension, don't try to give yourself anything more than 30 to 40 seconds for finding the answer. Don't take ages, guys, by reading word to word and checking the location. Just try to be quick enough by locating the word. Train your eyes to do so. It would make your job go easy. So let's read the first question that is being given to us over here. Britain could become the first European country to reintroduce the links. So the keyword is reintroduced and Britain. So here Britain is given to us. So we might think Britain is given. So there might be the answer related to reintroducing. I even see the word re-establish, but nothing about links is being mentioned or reintroducing links is being mentioned. So that word is not given. They talk about deer. The links is given over here, but nothing related to Britain. So now when I come down once more, okay, here's Britain and here's the word reintroduced, which means the answer would be fetched from here. Now let's try to read this particular portion. What exactly the question says? It was the first European country to reintroduce. Now, what is being given over here? I heard several conservationists suggest that the lynx could be reintroduced. If trees return to the bare hills elsewhere in Britain, the big cats could soon follow. There is nothing extraordinary about these proposals seen from the perspective of anywhere else in the Europe. So there's no major difference. The lynx has now been introduced into the Jura Mountains, the Alps, the Vosges in eastern France, and the Harz Mountains in Germany, and has re-established itself in many more places. So it's not just the Britain, which was the first one to reintroduce, as it has already been reintroduced in many places that are being highlighted over here. And that is the reason the correct answer for the first statement would be false, because they have clearly mentioned the other areas. A comparison is being made about the other areas where the reintroduction has already been carried out, and hence this statement would turn out to be false. Looking at the next one, the large growth in the European lynx population since 1970 has exceeded the conservationists' expectation. Now, 1970, the word is given, and as I told you, it goes in a series. So, this portion is any which ways irrelevant for me now. All the remaining answers would be fetched below this. Now, what is being given over here? The European population has tripled since 1970 to roughly 10,000. As with wolves, bears, beavers, boar, bison, moose, and many other species, the lynx has been able to spread. Now, that is the only thing that has been given. Yes, there has been a large growth, a huge increase. But have they said anything about exceeding the conservationist expectations? Have they given any word related to the expectations what people had? No such information is being given. And when no information is given, guys, the answer turns out to be not given. So only partial of this statement is correct that there has been a growth. But is it exceeding the expectations or is it still below the expectations? We don't know that because this piece of information is not being given. And that's why the correct answer for this turns out to be not given. This is how we need to figure out the answer. Let's move to the next one. Changes in agricultural practices have extended the habitat of the lynx in Europe. Now, remember, guys, this is a very common word that is used in IELTS. They love using that word, habitat. Habitat is a place where you dwell, okay, your breeding place. Now, remember, many students get confused in habit and habitat. Never do that, guys. Habit is different, habitat is different. So, remember this word very well. So changes in agricultural practices have extended the habitat, which means the place to thrive for the lynx. Now, what they have said over here, the lynx has been able to spread as farming has left the hills and people discover that it is more lucrative to protect the wildlife. So, what have they mentioned that the lynx has been able to spread? Why? Because the farming has left the hills. So, changes in agricultural practices, yes, because there is no more farming, have extended the habitat, yes, because they are able to spread in those barren lands. And that is the reason the correct answer for this would be true. So the first one we did was false. The second one was not given. The third one is true. And let's move to the final question. What exactly it says? It has become apparent, which means known, of course, that species reintroduction has commercial advantages. So there are commercial advantages. That is what is being said over here. So now, here, if we read further, what they have said that farming has left the hills and people discover that it is more lucrative to protect, okay, to protect the charismatic wildlife than to hunt it, as tourists will pay for a chance to see it. Large scale rewilding is happening almost everywhere except Britain. So now, when we look at the question, it says that it has commercial advantages, commercial monetary. So tourists definitely come into picture. They will pay, which means there are monetary gains, of course. And that is the reason the correct answer for this would be true once again, because that is what it says that there are commercial advantages. So you people might have observed one thing, it started over here, it ended over here. Because when we read further, that has no correlation because the answers have already come to an end. This is how you can save yourself a considerable amount of time, guys, when you do these questions, just by looking at the statement, reading it carefully. If nothing is being given, if that point itself is missing, it is not given. If it stands true to the requirement of the question, it is true. And finally, if it contrasts or opposes the requirement, it turns out to be false. So this is the thing that you people would have to keep in your mind, guys. So just follow these basic strategies. Remember, apart from multiple choice questions and headings, there is no detailed reading that we have to do. It's all a game about the keywords that we just have to follow. Okay, so this is what we'll be keeping in mind. Before I end up this session, guys, there's just another word that I would like to offer you as a bonus gift from my end. The word is elusive. Elusive, another common word that is a favorite among the IELTS test preparers. Elusive, Elusive. The meaning is hard to find or difficult to understand. So remember this thing very well. Hard to find or difficult to understand. That is the meaning of elusive. So just keep these things in mind, guys. For any further queries or concerns, you can get in touch with us. So we are British Academy here. So please get in touch for any queries. Do join us for any questions or doubts that you have. And we'll be more than willing and helpful to assist you in every single thing. So that would be all from my end, guys. Hope these strategies help you in the long run. Looking forward for many more lessons to come. So thank